Today we'll be sketching a quadratic graph when it doesn't factorise. Now I've invented this problem and I know it doesn't factorise, and I know that there are solutions where the graph will cross the x-axis. Let's try and solve this problem. Firstly, I want to find some important points. I want to know what happens when x equals 0. So at x equals 0, y equals 0 squared plus 13 times 0 plus 4. So I have the first point, 0, 4. When x is 0, y is 4. Now I want to know what the values are of x when y is equal to 0. So at y equals 0, 0 equals x squared plus 13x plus 4. Does it factorise? We have 4, so 2 and 2, 1 and 4. We can see, I think, quite quickly that's not going to give me the answer of 13x in the middle. So it doesn't factorise. How am I going to solve this? There are two possibilities. I can solve it by completing the square, or I can solve it by using quadratic formula. They both work. I certainly prefer completing the square because mathematically it's more attractive. But I know that you've learnt the quadratic formula, and having learnt it, why not just try and use it to solve this problem? The quadratic formula, x equals minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. Have you learnt that? Because if you haven't, you need to learn it before you get into the exam room. X equals minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. Okay, the a and the b and the c in this problem are the thing that times the x squared is the a, so a equals 1. The thing that times the x is b, so b equals plus 13, so it's 13. And the thing that gives you the c is whatever the constant is at the end. The constant is plus 4, so c equals 4. Let's solve that by putting those values in then. X equals negative b, so that's minus 13, plus or minus the square root of b squared, that's 169, minus 4 times 1 times 4, divided by 2 times 1, which is 2. That equals negative 13 plus or minus the square root of, that's 169 minus 16, 153. 169 minus 16, 153, divided by 2. Equals minus 13 plus or minus the square root of, this is 9 times, 9's and 153. 1 remains 6, 7. 9 times 17 divided by 2 equals negative 13 plus or minus 3 root 17 all over 2, but I'm going to split it up into two parts now, over 2, over 2. So my values are, x is minus 13 over 2 plus 3 root 17 over 2, or minus 13 over 2 minus 3 root 17 over 2. I don't know what those values are. I think I'd probably pick up my calculator now to find out what they are to help me draw it, because my sketch is going to include this point with the plus and this point with the negative. So let's pick up the calculator and solve those 2 points. We've got negative 13 over 2 plus 3 over 2 times root 17 equals, that's the right value, so I said plugged in the right values into my calculator. I get that as a decimal, that's S to D, negative 0.315. I think, as I'm going to do a sketch here, I'll put down negative 0.315 ... to indicate it's an approximation. So X equals negative 0.315 and ... The ellipsis indicates the number continues, which equals negative 0.3222 significant figures. Actually, I'm going to do a sketch here. I'll put it to 2 decimal places. And I've got my other value, X equals, and I'll just go back into my calculator and change it from plus to minus. So delete that minus in there. And let's change that to, change the value to S to D, negative 12.68. Negative 12.68 for ... equals negative 12.68 to 2 decimal places. Okay, well, let's draw that now. We've got when X equals negative 0.32, Y equals 0, or when X is negative 12.68, Y equals 0. The next key point on this one is the low point on the graph. The low point on the graph is the point immediately between these two. So I've got a value of X is negative 0.32. The value of X is negative 12.68. So in between the two of you, let's get my calculator and see what that value is. Negative 12.68 plus negative 0.32 equals, divide it by 2, 6.5. So the low point, X equals negative 6.5. Y equals, we need to put that value into this equation, negative 6.5 squared plus 13 times negative 6.5 plus 4. Now I happen to know that negative 6.5 squared is 42.25. I don't know what 13 times 6.5 is, but I do know that 6.5 times 6.5 is 42.25. So 2 times that would be 84.5 plus 4 equals, and now I need my calculator, I think, to finish that off, 42.25 minus 84.5 plus 4 equals minus 153 over 4, which is how I would usually prefer to leave the answer, because that's a pretty fraction. but I'm going to be doing a sketch here, so I need to know where that is. So I'll change that to negative 38.25. So I've got a low point at x is negative 6.5, y is negative 38.25. I know that when x is negative 0.32, y is 0, and when x is negative 12.68, y is 0. So I can draw the sketch now. Negative values, negative value. So most of my graph would be negative, and I've got x is 0, y is 4. But it becomes very negative, so quite a small upper part of the graph, a large negative part of the graph, and a small positive graph, and a large negative graph, relatively. Negative 0.3, very small. But I'm only going back as far as negative 12, so I need a scale here that works. I think I'll go for a scale of 1 square per unit. So far I've gone back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. It's negative 13. So this is negative 12.68. I can't do that accurately, clearly, but it's about there. Negative 0.32. I can't do that accurately either. It's about there. Let's mark off those 2 points. So I've got a point here, negative 12.68, 0. This point here, negative 0.32 and 0. And I've got this point down here, which has to go down to negative 38. This point up here has to be at 4. So I have to choose a scale up here that allows me to get negative 30. So let's say that my scale going downwards is, what would we say, 4 units per square. I need to go down 10 squares. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that's negative 40. And I'm looking for the point. X is minus 6.5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6 just there. Negative 6.5. We're going down as far as 38.25. 38 is in the middle of that square. 38.25 is actually very close to the middle of the square. It's a sketch, and we can get much better than that. Minus 6.5, negative 38.25, and the 0.40, sorry, 0.44. That's all I need for this graph, I think. We've got a value here where it crosses the axis, the value here, which is the low point of the graph, the value here where it crosses the x-axis again, and then just above it crosses the y-axis. And importantly, we finish this off with a single smooth curve. No little sketches like this. No point just here. We don't want it to come to a point. We want it to be a curve and come back up again. So very carefully bring down and avoid aiming at the point. Don't aim at this point, aim to the side. And then you can curve as you get closer to it. Try not to curve too early. Now you're going for symmetry on the way back up again. Aiming for that point up there. So aim outside it. Come back in. And then go a bit beyond it. Importantly, don't allow your graph to curve back on itself. It will always be going outwards. It will always be going outwards. Okay, let's mark on this one to say that's y. Mark on this one to say that's x. We've labelled this point. We've labelled this point. We've labelled this one. This one. I think we're looking at 4 marks.